Hello and welcome to this exciting event, The Science of Roller Coasters, a collaboration presented to you by Canada's Wonderland and the Ontario Science Centre. My name is Sean. I'm from the Ontario Science Centre and I'm going to be joined by Alex, who is a project engineer, ride maintenance at Canada's Wonderland. We've compiled some popular
Hello.
questions about. Hey Alex, how's it going?
Not bad. Everything good.
I'm glad you could join us to answer these questions about roller coasters. And I just wanted to tell our friends that we've compiled some popular questions about roller coasters that you'll answer for us. And we'll be exploring the forces that affect you while on roller coasters, look at the different parts of a roller coaster, take a couple of virtual roller coaster rides, and hopefully inspire you to design your own roller coaster at home. But before we begin, we would like to start with a land acknowledgement. Our audience may be watching from different regions throughout Ontario. We acknowledge that we are participating in this event on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. I'm speaking to you today from the city of Toronto. Alex is speaking from the city of Vaughan. We acknowledge that the land we live on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We know it has been a difficult time for all of us, with the recent discovery of unmarked graves of children in British Columbia and Saskatchewan. It is a grim reminder of the atrocities inflicted on Indigenous children and their families through residential schools and other colonial institutions. And that continues today. We acknowledge the relationship to the land and an ancient practice. And today, as we discuss the science behind roller coasters, we express our gratitude for the opportunity to be here. And we thank all generations who have taken care of this land since time immemorial. Caring for our land and all people starts with respecting and connecting with our environment and supporting actions that affirm this. Thank you. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So, Alex, we're going to start things off with a virtual ride on not just one, not two, but multiple roller coasters you have at Canada's Wonderland. It's a first-person point of view, so it's going to be a little difficult, but I have a little game for you. See if you can count how many different roller coasters there are in this clip, and let us know in the chat what you think they are, or how many you think there are. And for those of you familiar with roller coasters at Wonderland, see if you can identify those roller coasters. Is everyone ready? Okay, so buckle up and here we go. Wow, that was so much fun. And look at all those different roller coasters you have. Now, if you were counting closely, you might have seen 16 different roller coasters being featured in that clip. And actually, if you're familiar with your roller coasters at Canada's Wonderland, I'm going to tell you the order in which they appeared. We started off with the newest roller coaster, which was Yukon Striker, followed by Leviathan, Backlot Stunt Coaster, Dragon Fyre, Behemoth, Mighty Canadian Minebuster, Wildebeest, Wonder Mountain Guardian, The Fly, The Bat, Thunder Run, Ghoster Coaster, Taxi Jam, Flight Deck, Time Warp, Vortex, and the only one that was missing of the 17 roller coasters featured at Canada's Wonderland was Silver Streak. Now, for those of you who haven't been on a roller coaster before, how was it? I hope you enjoyed yourself. And Alex, now that we have you here with us today, I thought we could start off with maybe you could tell our viewers what you do at Canada's Wonderland.
I work as a project engineer in rides maintenance. Rides maintenance is a department of Canada's Wonderland designated to inspecting, maintaining, upkeeping amusement rides, including roller coasters. And we have a large variety of roller coasters and many other different amusement rides. So we are trying to cater to everybody in our potential audience, our guests who come and enjoy from the little ones, beginners on amusement rides and roller coasters, to the older folks. We don't have age limits, so everybody is welcome.
And that's great that everyone's welcome to Canada's Wonderland and you have something for everyone. And that's such a fascinating position, Alex. We're so grateful for people like you who take care of these rides and roller coasters so that we can feel safe on them. And you know what, Alex, we have some great questions for you. So here's the first question. Are you ready? One of the most popular questions is, what are roller coasters?
Roller coasters are amusement rides, and they started originally from the idea of tobogganing down the snowy hill. When there is no snow, then we are missing on that kind of fun. And so they used to be called, the initial roller coasters were called Russian hills, which had like vertical camel humps and valleys, and a train would go up and down, providing feeling of motion and dynamic force on the human body, which is thrilling for many people. And then they developed from that point on. From those original ones, now they are going ever larger, faster, providing a lot of fun for people who like open air in their face and feeling of freedom, feeling of flying. So that's why they're so fun. The basic idea behind the roller coaster is using gravity for as a powerful force. So that's why they're called roller coasters. We lift the train at the top of the lift, and then release it from that point on. So the roller coasters keep rolling back to the station, coasting back to the station, and by rolling on the wheels that run on the tracks. So it's a guided path back to the station, and that rolling motion starts with the first initial lift, and then goes through the series of loop-to-loops, corkscrews, vertical, horizontal loops, inversions. All of that is part of many roller coasters. Not all of them have all the features, but most of them are fairly exciting, and they are made such that would attract attention of our guests, depending on their level of
the level of fun, right? The level of what they like when they go on these rides, right?
Yes.
And it's neat. It's neat. You're saying coasting, so roller coasters don't use motors or anything like that, do they?
The trains of roller coasters don't have motors. They are rolling based on the gravity. The only motor that the roller coaster has is located in the lift. For traditional roller coasters, there is a lift that runs a lift chain. The electrical motor draws power from the electrical current from the network, and then runs a big sprocket. And this roller coaster chain is something that our viewers can imagine as a bicycle chain, just about 10 to 15 times bigger. And that runs a continuous loop. Once the train gets attached to the chain at the bottom of the lift, and then the chain pulls it to the top and releases it. After that, the chain continues running, but the train of a roller coaster coasts on the track, and it's not powered anymore.
That's great.
The propelling force comes from the gravity.
And on most roller coasters, I guess that first hill, as we can see that picture in the bottom left corner, the Behemoth, you can see that very, very tall hill. Usually the first hill is the tallest hill, so that you gain that potential energy, that stored energy, and then it converts that kinetic, that movement energy to run the track, the length of the track. Is that correct?
Roller coasters are actually perfect demonstration of conversion of mechanical energy to main aspects of mechanical energy are potential and kinetic energy. Potential energy being energy of gravity, and kinetic energy, energy of motion. So when the roller coaster train is elevated to the top of the lift, in terms of physics, we give it potential energy by lifting it to the top and giving it height. And potential energy is proportional to the height of lifting. So once the roller coaster is at the top of the lift, that's the maximum energy that the train will have. I'm talking about physical energy in terms of potential to perform mechanical work. For those of our viewers who are familiar with physics equations, after the roller coaster train starts rolling down the path or the track, potential energy diminishes because the height of the roller coaster goes down, and then kinetic energy rises because it speeds up. The gravity converts into the motion, and similar into a free-falling object where you drop it with the zero speed and it acquires speed as it goes down. That's how the roller coasters acquire speed going down the lift, down the first drop. And once they are at the bottom of the first drop, that's the point where a roller coaster train has the highest possible speed and then lowest potential energy. The roller coaster goes back up, and so now kinetic energy gets converted to a potential energy. However, it can never achieve the initial amount of potential energy given to it at the top of the lift because of the losses. And losses are just a reality of life. Lost energy, the energy conversion always involves losses, and that's how the nature works. So potential energy at the top of the lift can never be recovered. It's all dissipated through the losses, and losses on a roller coaster train are drag of the air and resistance in the wheels, which is friction in the wheel bearings and between the wheel and the track itself.
Yeah, and that's why you never see the hills as tall as that first hill because of all that lost energy. But you know what's neat is that you mentioned when you were talking earlier about what roller coasters are, you mentioned the different types of roller coasters. And in this slide, we could see that you have Yukon Striker, which is a type of dive coaster, which dives almost like 90 degrees. We have Leviathan, which is your largest roller coaster. And I believe they're called giga coasters, right? Because they're between 91 and 122 meters. They're like one of the taller ends of roller coaster. You have Behemoth, which is like a hyper coaster, taller than 61 meters. You have the which is a backwards roller coaster. It goes forwards and backwards, giving you a different sensation and thrill. If we go to the next slide, you have other roller coasters at Canada Wonderland. In the next slide, we have Flight Deck, which is, I believe, a suspended roller coaster. That's correct, Alex?
Suspended,
and then we have Minebuster, which is a wooden roller coaster. It gives you a different sensation. But like you said, Wonderland's for everyone. And so you even have roller coasters for the younger ones. If we go to the next slide, we can see those, like there's a couple roller coasters that are good starter roller coasters, like Taxi Jam and Ghoster Coasters. Are these ones that you would recommend to the younger riders?
That is definitely, those are the roller coasters meant for younger guests. They need to satisfy the height criteria, but these are the beginners, and so they are fairly mild and enjoyable, and parents can ride with the kids. And so that's where we start them off. And once we get them as a customer, we like to keep them. So there is a lot of steps to progress from that point on, from Silver Streak and the Fly, and then up to the Leviathan, which is the fastest, tallest roller coaster in Canada. So we have everything.
Yeah, and just because I know we're going to get the question, just to let you know that Leviathan reaches speeds of up to 148 kilometers an hour. I mean, that's super fast, faster than the legal limit on highways even. So that's incredible. And you know what, Alex, all this talk about roller coasters, I think we should take another roller coaster ride. And we're going to start with the ride, actually, it was my first roller coaster ride. It was the Dragon Fyre. And Dragon Fyre is really, really neat because if we look at the next slide, we could see that giant hill. And in in this slide, in that next slide, when we see this giant hill, you were talking about a chain that lifts up the roller coaster. So we can see the roller coaster. When we take this ride, you'll see that chain pulling up. And when you were talking to us about the chain and how it has that rotation, there's also that thing that grabs onto the cart. What did you call that again? The dog?
Chain dog. Chain dog. That's because it's got a shape of a barking dog, and that's a mechanical device that grabs onto the chain link, and the train gets pulled up to the top by that device. And once the train starts rolling on its own, then the chain dog releases, disconnects from the chain, and it goes back to power of gravity as opposed to being lifted by the chain.
That's awesome. So I think everyone's ready for this ride. Not only are we going to experience a hill, but we're also going to experience 4 inversions. We're going to have 2 loops, a corkscrew, and a helix. And here's a fast fact. Since the park was opened in 1981, Dragon Fyre has had the most riders with over 43.2 million riders. So I think we're ready for that ride. So let's buckle up, and here we go. Whoa, that was a fun ride. That was such a fun ride. Brings me back to my childhood. Alex, because we just took that ride, I mean, it was so much fun. We did go upside down, and we've been getting actually a lot of audience questions, viewer questions about this one topic. And this actually leads us to our next question. And it actually came from Ethan and Maeve, but a couple of others from our viewers. They want to know about the upside down. So, like, if we go to our next slide, how does the roller coaster go up hills and upside down when gravity is forcing it down? I mean, if we look at that photograph of Dragon Fyre with the green loop, they're upside down and they're not falling out. So how does this work?
There is a phenomenon called centrifugal force, and that occurs on any rotary motion of a mechanical body, and that's when solid object or mechanical body rotates around an axis. There is a phenomenon of centrifugal and centripetal force. That's actually the force that's keeping the train up away from the center. And that's something that you could have experienced when you were a kid, and your parents would take your hands and start swinging you around. You would feel a lifting force. That's the centrifugal force that lifts you up, fighting with the gravity that pulls you down. And so any rotary motion will evolve a centrifugal force, and that's what's keeping train on the track. However, we don't rely only on the centrifugal force. We have what we call upstop wheels. In other words, the tracks that the roller coasters run on have running wheels. That's similar to what you have on your vehicle. They're carrying the load when the roller coaster is going right side up, and then when it goes right upside down, there is an upstop wheel that grabs the track from below, which is on an inverted situation above, and it prevents it from falling off the track.
And this allows us to do not only go upside down, but it's allowed roller coaster designers to make not just a loop, but they could go into a loop into different directions. If we look at the next slide, for instance, we could see that a couple of other roller coasters, like Dragon Fyre, which we were just on, has the corkscrew, or we can see Yukon Striker will go into a loop and then bend out, or even Silver Streak allows you to make these twists and turns and sharp turns and banks. But because you mentioned those wheels, which are so important to keep us on the track, it allows those roller coaster designers to do that. In fact, in our next slide, we can actually take an up close look at some of those roller coaster wheels and how they look on a roller coaster track. So on Yukon Striker, you were talking about the top wheel and the bottom wheel. So how many directions do those wheels go in on those tracks?
In 3 directions, and there are 2 track pipes, so they are sort of hugging the track pipes from both sides. There are each wheel carrier, which is the device you can see on the picture there, contains 2 running wheels and 2 upstop wheels and 2 side wheels, and those are on either side of the train. So every wheel point along the length of the train will contain 12 wheels, and one of them in each location. One would be enough, but they always use 2 for safety purposes. In case one fails, the other one will continue to carry the load.
And it's so neat. And a lot of people, when they think of wheels, they think of cars, and those wheels are located underneath them. But because on roller coasters, and they want to give you that thrilling experience in different ways, if we look at our next slide, we could see, for instance, on Vortex, a suspended roller coaster, those wheels could be right above you, holding you on the tracks as well. So they're quite strong, aren't they? Just to help you stay on those tracks and give you that really cool motion.
Yes, the weight of the train for roller coasters, standard roller coaster is high. The weight of passengers is not as significant as the weight of the frame, the steel construction of the roller coaster. And for that reason, everything needs to be designed for the loads that it's carrying, and including the wheels. And these wheels are, that's another part of our job here, making sure everything is safe for our guests. We inspect these wheels daily. We check them for general status and the freedom of movement. We make sure that they are performing the way they are supposed to be performing, and any potential damage or deterioration over time would be discovered in the daily inspections that we carry out every morning before we open the park. And those wheels that are not up to snuff would be replaced and adjusted, and so everything is in a perfect shape by the time our guests show up and start riding our rides. That's really cool. And how without these wheels, we wouldn't be able to create these incredible motions to help keep us safe. And like you said, you have to inspect them all the time because they're essentially like the heart of that roller coaster to keep them on those tracks. I want to get to our next question, and this one has to do with the way we feel. So I'm going to the next slide, and it's, why do we get that same funny feeling going down a roller coaster hill as we do going down a big hill in a car? And actually, Alex, if you don't mind, I actually did some research on this one. Do you mind if I answer this next question for our viewers? Go ahead.
Okay, so there's actually no exact answer. Scientists are still a little uncertain, but that floating, dropping feeling that happens in your belly can feel quite strange. And this is their educated guess. And so we were talking about gravity, and Alex, when you're talking about gravity, we know that gravity pulls us towards the ground. But when you're sitting in a roller coaster car, the gravity is pulling on the car and you towards the earth. But between the car and the ground is that roller coaster rail. And that rail is actually pushing up on you and keeping you inside of it. So this car and you inside of it, keeping you falling from the ground, and your body is used to this feeling and this force of the ground pushing up on you. It's just like when I'm sitting on a chair, the chair is pushing up on me, or if I'm standing on the ground is pushing up on me. But on the hills of the roller coaster, when the car moves is moving right at the right speed and just starting to go down that hill, it starts that drop. And when it does that, you start to experience free fall. And if you actually look at all the forces on your body, it's actually the total amount is very low. So you have the sensation of weightlessness, or that there's less gravity on you. And because of that, well, when you're going over a hill, you feel the same thing, that weightless feeling, if you suddenly go on a big dip on a hill with a car. And it's not just you that feels that weightlessness, but everything inside of you feels it as well. So that funny feeling in your stomach, well, you're feeling that because your stomach, your organs are feeling that weightless feeling as well. Remember, your body is not a complete solid block of wood. It's made up of muscles and bones. And in your belly, because you have stomach, your intestines and stuff, they're all held together by flexible connective tissues. And they keep you together, and they keep where your organs where they should be. And because if they weren't there, it'd just be like a pile at the bottom of your belly, or they might fall out of you. But it's these connective, flexible tissues that help to keep your organs where they are, but they can still expand and slide against each other. So when you're doing the free fall, your organs are doing the same thing too. Your body's not used to this experience, so the nerves are sending messages to your brain telling them something strange is happening, and it's that weird feeling. And this is why we think you get that sinking feeling in your belly. But don't worry, it's totally safe. And your organs do go back to normal the way they're supposed to be. But I guess it's because you're not used to that feeling. That's why this happens. I want to get to the next question, however. So we're going to go to the next slide. And it has to do with the types of roller coasters that we were talking about earlier. And this is a very popular question, is what's the difference between the mighty Canadian Minebuster and Vortex? Now, looking at the two roller coasters, there's one obvious difference about their appearance. So Alex, can you help us answer this question?
Minebuster is a traditional roller coaster. It's one of the oldest types of roller coasters, and it's made out of wood. It's the supporting structure is completely made out of wood, and for that reason, the structure is made such that it would be appropriate for the wood as a building material. And the wood, you cannot have any size of wood you want, because you have to cut the trees down and make lumber. You only get what's out there, what's in the nature, what the trees made. And for that reason, the structure of wood roller coasters is made out of three-dimensional truss. And those are the little sticks that you can see on the picture. They're not so little when you get closer to them, but on the picture they look small. In any case, the load from a passing train, from a heavy train with people on it, the load is taken by many members connected into a spider web kind of a structure. Those are in engineering terms nodes and members, and they create a supporting structure for wood roller coasters. Vortex is a more modern roller coaster, on top of being suspended, which is unusual, which is not very often the case. The steel structure supporting Vortex is newer by date, but it's also different because steel as a building material will allow you to do more imaginative things. And that's the main members of the steel structure are beams and columns. Columns, vertical support, and beams, horizontal support. And you can see, because steel is much stronger material than wood, you can see that there is not so many supports needed, as opposed to many small ones. We use fewer big ones, and that's what supports the Vortex and other steel roller coasters.
That's great. I mean, they do give you those different experiences, but I mean, the nature, how we can still feel that historical, like how the first roller coasters were with those wooden ones, and the steel ones are just, like you said, modern, and they allow you to do so many cool movements and motions. It's just incredible how those roller coasters have evolved as well. We actually, Alex, we're getting a lot of questions about how do you design roller coasters and the design aspects of roller coasters. And there's actually for students, they enter a competition where they get to design their own roller coasters, And we're hoping to show a couple of designs to inspire you at home to create your own roller coasters. And if our viewers want to create their own roller coasters at home with balls and marbles and such, could you provide some tips, Alex, on what they could do to help create their roller coasters at home?
Just to extend on your introduction, Wonderland hosts roller coaster building competition or model building competition every spring, except this year when the pandemic did its own on what we do. But the schools, school children from our region and wider participate in a roller coaster building contest, and they bring them one day. We designate one day for the physics in an amusement park type of deal, and part of that is a competition in building roller coasters. And over the years, we've seen so many different models, different types, different ideas that kids have, and they're amazing. Some of them are really out of this world for the creativity part, and that just goes to tell you, give kids some freedom and some building materials, and they will do miracles. Some of them are very novel and creative, and some of them are very wise and safe. So every year we get a wide variety of entries, and kids are using from popsicle sticks and glue to rivets and strings and hoses to guide the marble. They actually use a marble or a rolling bearing ball to play the role of a train, and then they get judged based on features that they included and number of loops and speed and what have you. There is a judging panel that in the end awards some prizes to the best and the best looking and the best functionality roller coasters that we get. And we have over the years we had a lot of entries, and the roller coaster contest is going on. So for all the viewers that are interested, it will be up next year, hopefully in sometime in April. I think it would be the day set for that.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that in spring. And for some tips, I mean, if I'm looking at these designs, you can see that they all start at the top of the roller coaster design. That I guess that's where they would release a ball, because as we were talking earlier, we want to have that maximum potential energy, that stored energy before we start. So I noticed that all of them start at the top and then go downwards. And it's really neat that they go in that slant. And I guess depending on the angle of the slant, it will give you a different result. And I guess this is something that kids could test, whether they want a steeper angle to get a faster or maybe not so fast. It depends on the curvature of the track. I noticed that in the first picture, in the first design, they have multiple loops as you're going down as well, which is really neat. And you even mentioned the tracks are made out of different. I mean, I made my own track, and I just made it out of, I mean, I used paper towel rolls, and I just taped it together to create a loop and a track and a hill. I noticed that they're using wires and pipes. In fact, in our next slide, we could see two other designs that use those two wires, almost simulating like the actual roller coaster track as the train or the marble rolls down it. And I like the really sciencey one with the Erlenmeyer flask at the top. It's just so nice.
The one on the left-hand side, I believe those black clips on the white hoses, I think they were made by a 3D printer, and that's the influence of new technology, even on a model building aspect of kids schooling. They 3D printed those clips that hold the hoses together and play a role of a roller coaster track.
So fascinating, using technology to help with the design, and it's incredible. I do want to, we're running a little out of time, but I do want to get to a couple more questions. So Alex, we have a question for you, and this is your personal. What do you think is the best seat on the roller coaster? What's your favorite seat on the roller coaster?
When we talked earlier, I told you how we work as professionals. When I go to one of our many sister parks, What I do is I ride the roller coaster in first seat, and then in the middle, and then in the last seat, and then I choose for that particular roller coaster where is the best seat. And I advise our guests to do that with our roller coasters. Come here and ride it in every position and determine for themselves what's the best seat, because that's a matter of taste. Some of the roller coasters are best in the front seat. But again, that's my opinion. For example, Vortex, riding in a front seat really feels like flying. I even make a mistake when I talk about it. And it's flying over the lake, and it's very scenic, and you have that air in your face type of feeling. On the other hand, for example, Behemoth, in my opinion, the best seat is at the back, because the center of the gravity of the train, which actually you feel like being pulled when you are on the rear seat, and that over the peaks of the camel humps, that last seat has that tailgating action that creates an exciting feeling. And so in my opinion, I like that kind of vibration or motion, and in my opinion, that's the best seat. But some other people may like front or middle better, so it's all individual, and it's not for all roller coasters the same. It depends on the kind of roller coaster that you're riding, and depending on what you like.
Excellent. And actually, depending on that sensation and stuff, I mean, in order to get those different sensations, it is a personal preference. It's all up to the rider. And I think we should heed your advice. Let's just try it at those different parts and see which one's our favorite, right? I want to get to our next question, and that is, and you're the perfect person to ask this, are roller coasters safe?
They are absolutely safe. And I usually tell people that ask that question, our business is amusement and thrills, but our job is safety, especially in maintenance. We have a crew of dedicated professionals, many of them with long years of experience here. And
we have actually, Alex, we have a slide of some of your crew as well working on sections of the roller coasters right over here.
That's what they do the entire winter after we close the park until we open it in the spring. There is a full-time crew of mechanics. They're all licensed mechanics, and educated and trained in what they do. They do a lot of maintenance and upkeep of our equipment. And then daily, when the park is open, they start 5, 6 in the morning, and then inspect the trains and tracks, and all of our rides get inspected on a daily basis to make sure that everything is properly maintained, adjusted, there is no damage, there is no issues with the rides. Every ride is ridden by operators before our guests go on it, and that's just to confirm that everything is up to par. And then when the guests show up, they can safely go and enjoy, and they are absolutely safe. And as I usually give an example to our guests, we like you, we want to keep you safe, but those roller coasters are used by our families, by our kids. So we want to make sure it's double safe, because we want to make sure everybody who goes on have fun and not have any safety issues. So you can bet that they are safe, and we guarantee you that by doing what we do all the time.
Well, Alex, I just want to say, make sure you pass on a big thank you from, of course, your park guests and from all of us to your staff who helped make these roller coasters safe for all of us. We actually have another slide of the. Actually, before we move on to the next slide, what are they working on? What is your crew working on in that previous slide over here?
Those are the frames on the left-hand side. That's the frame of our flight deck. On the right-hand side, that's the frame of our backlot stunt coaster.
And the next one, it looks like on the next slide, it looks like they're working on a harness.
This is the Wild Beast train, and they're working on the seat belt and the lap bar. They check them. Seat belts usually get so worn over the season that we have to replace them. Sometimes even during the season, we have to replace them because many people use them, and they get frayed and deteriorated because of the weather conditions and often use. they get much more use on our roller coasters than they would in your vehicle, because when you look at it, you use your vehicle once, twice, 3 times a day, and our roller coasters, the cycle is usually 3 to 4 minutes per train, so 10 hours operating days, and you can count how many times the seat belts are used.
That's amazing. And in our next slide, you guys work on the harnesses, and there are different harness systems that we'll see in the next slide on the different roller coasters. We can see on Yukon Striker, you have the harness on top, but for Leviathan, it's like a lap bar. It's same with Canadian Minebuster, and you have to have that knowledge on how to work on all those as well. In the next slide, you alluded to something, is that you don't just work during the summer, but you also work in the winter time. So you're working all year round inspecting it. Can you tell us what you're working on here? This is, I believe, the Mighty Canadian Minebuster, isn't it?
No, this would be Wild Beast, because
Wild Beast, yeah.
And over the course of winter, everything that we spot as a potentially deteriorating part of a wooden structure, our carpenters would, in the winter, they would replace it. If something goes bad during the day, it would be replaced before the next day's operation. So everything is maintained in a proper shape and in a perfectly safe manner for our guests.
So Alex, I have 2 quick questions for you. The first question, to wrap things up, is what do you love most about your job?
I'm here for a long time. It's been full 25 years of me working here, and ever since I came here, I was amazed with the dedication of people that work here with me in maintenance, and many of those retire. In meantime, I tend to be amongst the older ones now, but the dedication level and the friendliness and the teamwork of everybody around me is something that creates memories for life, and makes me feel very good about my job. And that's why we are proud of our safety record. We for the 40 years of operation, we never had a fatality or a serious injury ride related, and that's a stellar safety record, and we are proud of it. And we compare with the best amusement parks out there, and so that serves to as a credit to all of those people that you saw in the pictures that do a hard work in order to make that possible.
Excellent. And once again, we are so thankful. And I thank you for letting us know all the work that goes behind these roller coasters and make them such a thrilling experience for the riders. And the last question, and just it was actually from YouTube, is what is your favorite roller coaster ride at Canada's Wonderland?
My favorite is Leviathan, and Yukon Striker is newer, but Leviathan, I like speed. I'm an avid skier myself, and I like the speed, the freedom of feeling, and the air in my face type of feeling. And Leviathan is just so quick and so close to a feeling of flying in an airplane, that it's so thrilling and amusing. So that's my favorite ride in Canada's Wonderland.
Well, thank you again for joining us, Alex, and for answering all these amazing questions. And our viewers really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to help answer these questions. And let's learn a little more about roller coasters, design them, and how they work. And I just want to let everyone know that Canada's Wonderland is now open. But don't forget, this year you need to make a reservation to visit. So you can check out all the rides and ticket information at canadaswonderland.com. Also, the wait is nearly over because the Ontario Science Centre, well, we're excited because we're going to be reopening our doors very soon as well, sharing new exhibitions, installations, and IMAX films with you as well. We'll first open to our members with 2 exclusive weekends on July 24th to 25th and July 31st to August 2nd. And then we're going to open the general public on August 4th. So keep your eyes on our website and social channels for more updates, including when you can book your time ticket. Now, We can't wait to see you soon. Until then, though, we still have one more little adventure for you, and we're going to take a virtual ride on the newest roller coaster, Yukon Striker. So just give you some world record facts about this ride. This is the longest, tallest, and fastest dive roller coaster in the world. You're going to go up 75 meters on a hill and then hang over a 90-degree drop for 3 seconds before heading down into an underwater tunnel reaching speeds of 130 kilometers an hour and then soaring through 4 dynamic inversions, including a complete 360 loop. And so I hope you're all ready. So get those seatbelts, put them on, strap on your imaginary harness, and let's go for our intense ride. Thanks again, Alex. And we hope everyone has a wonderful day. See you soon.
Bye-bye.